Imagine a city where the entire layout isn't about power, money, or defense, but about enlightenment. Streets that spiral like the turning of the Dharma wheel, monasteries that dominate the skyline instead of palaces, and a daily rhythm designed not for kings, but for monks. These weren't fantasy cities, they existed, and in many ways they still do. Welcome to the world of Buddhist urbanism. Today we're diving into how Buddhism shaped cities across Southeast and Southeast Asia. From the humble beginnings of monastic compounds in ancient India, to the monumental planning of Borobudur in Java, to the grid-like temple cities of China and Japan, Buddhist thought left an urban footprint that's still visible. And unlike many religious cities designed to impress with sheer scale or power, Buddhist cities often aim to transform, to turn a settlement into a stage for meditation, ritual, and the pursuit of nirvana. So let's explore. How do you design a city not for profit or politics, but for peace of mind? Buddhism emerged in the 5th to 4th centuries BCE in northern India during a time of intense urban growth. Cities like Rajgir, Varanasi, and Pataliputra were bustling centers of trade, politics, and culture. But the Buddha's teaching often pulled people away from that chaos. Instead, monasteries or viharas appeared just outside the city walls. Why outside? Because proximity mattered. Too close and the monks would be distracted by worldly temptations. Too far and alms rounds, the daily walks for food donations, would be impractical. So these monasteries became semi-urban satellites connected to cities but distinctly apart. Think of them as spiritual suburbs, where life was quieter and more structured. The architecture of these early monasteries was simple: open courtyards, dormitory-style cells for monks, and teaching halls. Yet their influence was enormous. Over time, these viharas grew into massive complexes like Nalanda University in Bihar, India, which at its height, 5th-12th century CE, hosted thousands of monks, scholars, and students. Nalanda wasn't just a school. It was a full-blown monastic city, complete with libraries, lecture halls, hostels, and temples. Some historians even argue that Nalanda was the world's first true university campus, centuries before Bologna or Oxford. Buddhism didn't just create monasteries, it reshaped how whole cities could be imagined. A recurring theme was the mandala, a cosmic diagram symbolizing the universe. The mandala wasn't just art, it was an urban template. The most famous example, Borobudur in central Java, Indonesia, built in the 9th century CE, is less a city than a spiritual mountain, but it embodies Buddhist spatial thinking. Its design is essentially a three-dimensional mandala: square terraces representing the world of desire, circular terraces symbolizing higher realms of form, and a central stupa standing for enlightenment itself. Pilgrims would walk through these terraces in a ritual clockwise procession, literally journeying toward nirvana. In city terms, this translates to settlements arranged with central stupas or temples as cosmic anchors. Roads radiated outward, symbolizing order from chaos. Just as Hindu urbanism, there is a cosmic orientation, but the Buddhist version emphasized journey and transformation, not divine kingship. As Buddhism spread, especially through royal patronage, entire cities began to revolve around temples. In Sukhothai, 13th-14th centuries Thailand, the urban core was dominated not by palaces, but by towering Buddha statues and monasteries. The king himself was expected to rule as a Dharma Raja, a righteous king guided by Buddhist principles, so governance and religion blurred. The urban form reflected this. Temples weren't just places of worship, they were community centers, housing festivals, education, even water management. Large reservoirs or barais often surrounded temples, tying spiritual and ecological life together. This template spread widely in pagan Myanmar, Luang Prabang, Laos, and beyond, where cities became constellations of monasteries and stupas. From a bird's eye view, these weren't cities dominated by vows and citadels, but by meditation halls and pagodas. If you're enjoying this journey through the world's spiritual cities, don't forget to like this video and subscribe. It really helps keep the channel growing. And we've got the whole series coming up, covering everything from Confucian capitals to indigenous sacred landscapes. When Buddhism reached China, it met a very different urban tradition. Chinese cities were planned on rigid grids, heavily influenced by Confucian order and imperial hierarchy. So, how did Buddhism fit? By slotting monasteries into the grid, but giving them a unique rule. In Tang Dynasty Chang'an, the capital that influenced city planning across East Asia, monasteries were strategically placed within residential wards. They acted as a neighborhood hubs, quiet spaces for ritual, but also cultural engines producing art, manuscripts, and festivals. Over time, these Buddhist compounds became so influential that they rivaled state power, prompting emperors to sometimes clamp down on them. In Japan, Buddhism blended with Shinto traditions and produced iconic temple cities like Nara and Kyoto. Kyoto, founded in 794 CE, was modeled on the Chinese capital grid but dotted with Buddhist temples that still dominate the cityscape today. The interplay between strict Confucian geometry and Buddhist spirituality created a hybrid urbanism, orderly yet contemplative, worldly yet cosmic. If there is one city that captures Buddhist urbanism in its purest form, is Lhasa, Tibet. Dominated by the Potala Palace and the Jokhang Temple, Lhasa isn't just a capital, it's a spiritual map. The city is structured around pilgrimage circuits, the lingam encircling the city, and the barker around the central temple. Movement itself becomes prayer. Pilgrims walking clockwise around sacred sites, sometimes for miles, sometimes prostrating themselves step by step, turn the whole city into a living mandala. Unlike European cities where plazas were designed for commerce and politics, Buddhist plazas were designed for ritual circulation. Other Tibetan towns like Shigatse or Sesang share this DNA. Here, urban design wasn't just about living, it was about practicing enlightenment through movement. So what do Buddhist cities teach us today? Human scale matter. Monasteries and temples were often walkable, intimate, and community-oriented. They remind us that cities don't need to be endless highways and skyscrapers. They can be designed around daily rituals of walking, gathering, and reflecting. Spiritual anchors create identity. Just as Borobudur or Lhasa centers the community, mother cities might benefit from cultural or symbolic anchors, whether that's libraries, public parks, or art centers. Balance between chaos and calm. By locating monasteries just outside cities, Buddhists struck a balance between urban energy and contemplative retreat. Today, that could mean better integration of quiet green spaces with bustling urban fabrics. And let's be honest, who wouldn't want a city that feels a little more like a monastery and a little less like a traffic jam? Buddhist cities weren't just about temples, they were about transforming the very experience of living together. From Nalanda's monastic hub to Borobudur's cosmic mountain to Lhasa's pilgrimage circuits, they show us an alternative urbanism, one where enlightenment, not empire, was the ultimate blueprint. So next time you walk through your own city, ask yourself, does this place guide me toward stress or serenity?